Daehyun wiped the grease from his hands and checked the cooling system one last time. The pipes hummed softly, working just as they should. He nodded to himself and packed his tools back into the gray metal box. Another repair finished. Another quiet day of work. He walked through the narrow corridors of the ship, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship was called Times Sejong's Promise *, a diplomatic vessel that carried important people to important meetings. Daehyun was not one of those important people. He fixed things when they broke. He checked systems to make sure they kept working. Nobody really noticed him, and he liked it that way. The ship was busy today. Diplomats rushed past him in their formal clothes, carrying tablets and speaking in serious voices. Security officers checked their weapons and equipment. Everyone seemed tense. Daehyun knew why. They were heading to a big meeting with aliens called the Vethric Collective. This meeting could decide if humans and the Vethric would be friends or enemies. Daehyun did not worry about such things. He just fixed pipes and checked wiring. That was enough for him. He reached the small cafeteria and got his lunch. Rice, some vegetables, and a piece of chicken. He sat alone at a table in the corner, the way he always did. A few crew members sat at other tables, talking and laughing together. Nobody invited Daehyun to join them. He did not mind. He preferred the quiet. Captain Hee-won entered the cafeteria, her uniform clean and pressed. She was tall and moved with confidence. Everyone straightened up when they saw her. She grabbed a coffee and spoke briefly with Lieutenant Minho, the head of security. Minho was younger than the captain but serious about his job. They talked about the meeting, their voices low. Ambassador Sunmi walked in next. She was the lead diplomat, the one who would do most of the talking with the Vethric. She looked tired. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She had been preparing for this meeting for months. Everything had to be perfect. One wrong word could start a war. Daehyun finished his lunch and cleaned his tray. He checked his schedule on his old tablet. There was work to do in Cargo Bay 3. Some of the environmental controls needed checking. He headed that way, walking through corridors that got quieter as he moved away from the main sections of the ship. Cargo Bay 3 was cold and empty. Large crates sat strapped to the walls, supplies for the diplomatic mission. Daehyun opened his toolbox and got to work on the wall panel. The environmental system was not broken, but the readings were slightly off. He liked to fix small problems before they became big ones. He worked slowly and carefully. Time passed. He did not notice when the ship's intercom crackled to life. All personnel, this is Captain Hee-won. We are beginning evacuation drill sequence in 10 minutes. All crew must report to their assigned stations. This is not optional. I repeat, all crew to drill stations. The announcement echoed through most of the ship. But Cargo Bay 3 had old speakers. One of them had stopped working last month. Daehyun had put it on his list to fix, but had not gotten to it yet. He heard nothing. He just kept working, checking wires and adjusting settings. Throughout the ship, crew members hurried to their positions. They practiced the emergency procedures, making sure everyone knew what to do if something went wrong during the meeting. The drill took 30 minutes. When it ended, everyone returned to their duties. Nobody noticed that Daehyun had not reported in. He was easy to forget. He was always somewhere in the ship, fixing something. People assumed he was where he was supposed to be. Daehyun finished his work in the cargo bay. He tested the environmental controls. Everything worked perfectly now. He closed the panel and cleaned up his tools. Then he checked his tablet again. His shift was almost over. He decided to head back to his small cabin and rest, but as he reached the cargo bay door, it would not open. He pressed the button again. Nothing. He frowned and checked the panel. The door had locked automatically during the drill. He needed a security code to open it from the inside. Daehyun sighed. He was not worried. He had his communicator. He pressed the button to call someone. Static. The cargo bay had thick walls. The signal was weak here. He tried again. Still nothing. He sat down on a crate and thought about his options. He could wait. Someone would notice eventually, or he could try to fix the door panel. He looked at it. It would take time, but he could do it. He decided to wait a little while first. Maybe someone would come to the cargo bay soon. He was in no hurry. He pulled out a protein bar from his pocket and ate it slowly. Hours passed. The ship continued its journey to the meeting station. Captain Hewan stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past. They would arrive soon. Quote, quote, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. This meeting could change everything for humanity. Ambassador Sunmi reviewed her notes for the 100th time. She had to convince the Vethric that humans were reasonable, that they could be trusted. The Vethric were powerful. They controlled dozens of star systems. If this meeting went badly, Earth could face serious trouble. Lieutenant Minho checked his security team. They would stay on the ship during the meeting, ready for anything. He hoped they would not be needed. He hoped the diplomats could solve everything with words. In Cargo Bay 3, Dae-hyun gave up waiting. He opened his toolbox and started working on the door panel. It was tricky work. The security system was complicated, but Dae-hyun was patient. He worked carefully, testing each connection. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They had arrived at the meeting station. Through the windows, crew members could see the station, a huge structure floating in space. And around it, dozens of Vethric warships, big ships with strange designs, their hulls covered in organic-looking armor. Captain Hewan took a deep breath. "Open a channel to the station," she ordered. The Vethric responded immediately. Their voice came through the speakers, translated by computers into Korean. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock. The meeting will begin in 1 hour." "Understood," Captain Hewan replied. "We are ready." The times, Sejong's promise times, moved slowly toward the docking port. Inside, everyone prepared. Diplomats gathered their materials. Security teams took their positions. Everyone felt the tension in the air. In Cargo Bay 3, Dae-hyun finally got the door panel working. The door opened with a soft hiss. He stepped out, packed up his tools, and headed toward his cabin. His shift was over. He was tired and hungry again. He thought about getting some dinner. Maybe some noodles from the dispenser. He had no idea that in just a few hours, his simple existence would nearly start an interstellar war. He did not know that the entire galaxy was about to learn his name. He just wanted his noodles and maybe some quiet time by the observation window. Dae-hyun was just a maintenance worker. He fixed things, he kept to himself, he never caused trouble. But sometimes, just existing is enough. The meeting room was cold. Ambassador Sunmi sat at the long table, her hands folded in front of her. Captain Hewan sat beside her, along with 2 other diplomats from Earth. Across from them sat the Vethric representatives. Envoy Thalys looked like a giant insect. His body was covered in shimmering blue-green plates. Multiple eyes dotted his head, each one moving independently. When he spoke, his mouth parts clicked and chittered. The translation device turned his words into Korean. "Humans," Thalys said, his voice sounding flat through the translator. "We have concerns about your expansion into the outer sectors." Next to him sat Commander Voresh. He was from a different Vethric species, one that looked more like a reptile. His scales were deep red, and his eyes were sharp and yellow. He watched the humans without blinking. "We are not expanding aggressively," Ambassador Sunmi replied, keeping her voice calm and professional. "We are simply exploring and establishing peaceful colonies." "Peaceful," Voresh hissed. The translator caught the skepticism in his tone. "You humans breed quickly. You spread fast. You take resources that others need." Captain Hewan leaned forward slightly. "We are willing to discuss resource-sharing agreements. That is why we are here." The negotiations continued. Back and forth. The Vethric made demands. The humans tried to find middle ground. It was not going well. The Vethric wanted humans to stop all expansion for 50 years. They wanted control over 3 systems that human colonists had already started settling. They wanted tribute payments in rare metals. Ambassador Sunmi felt frustration building inside her. But she kept her face neutral. These demands were unreasonable. Earth would never agree to them. But she had to keep talking. She had to find some way forward. Outside the meeting room, Lieutenant Minho watched the security feeds. Everything looked normal. The Vethric warships stayed in position around the station. No weapons were powered up. No unusual movements. Still, he felt uneasy. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. Deeper in the ship, Dae-hyun had finished his dinner. He had gotten his noodles from the dispenser, along with some tea. Most of the ship was quiet. The important people were all at the meeting. The rest of the crew were at their stations, waiting. Dae-hyun did not want to go back to his cabin yet. It was small and boring. Instead, he headed to one of the observation decks. It was a small room, with a large window that looked out into space. Not many people used it. That made it perfect for him. He entered the observation deck and saw he was alone. Good. He sat down in one of the chairs facing the window. Outside, he could see the stars. He could see the meeting station, a huge cylinder rotating slowly, and beyond it, the Vethric warships, their strange shapes outlined against the darkness. Dae-hyun did not think much about the ships. He just looked at the stars while he ate his noodles. They were good noodles. A little spicy. Just the way he liked them. He sipped his tea and felt relaxed for the first time all day. He did not know that the observation deck's window was visible from the Vethric flagship. He did not know that their sensors were constantly scanning the human ship. He did not know that at that exact moment, something changed. On the bridge of the Vethric flagship, alarms started blaring. Officers jumped to their stations, their movements panicked. The ship's sensor specialist, a being named Keleth, stared at his screens in horror. "Commander!" Keleth shouted into the communication system. "Commander Voresh! Emergency! Emergency! Commander Voresh! Commander Voresh! Commander Voresh!" In the meeting room, Voresh's communication device buzzed. He looked down at it, annoyed at the interruption. Then he saw the emergency code. His eyes widened. "What is it?" Envoy Thalas clicked, noticing Voresh's reaction. Voresh stood up quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. "We must pause this meeting." Immediately. Ambassador Sunmi frowned. "What? Why? We are in the middle of—" "Now!" Voresh's shout cut her off. He was already moving toward the door. Thalas stood as well, his multiple legs moving in a blur. Both Vethric rushed out of the room, leaving the confused humans behind. Captain Hewon stood up. What just happened? Outside, on the Vethric flagship, chaos had erupted. The sensor specialist Keleth was shaking. His hands trembled as he tried to explain what he was seeing. It is a crushing presence, sir," he stammered. "Massive. I have never felt anything like this. The readings they are off all our scales. The Vethric could sense things that humans could not. They felt the mental pressure that all living beings gave off. It was like a weight, a presence that pushed against their minds. Most species in the galaxy could sense this. Most species had learned, millions of years ago, to keep their presence small and quiet. It was a survival trait. Humans had never learned this. They had evolved alone on Earth, with no natural predators that could sense their mental pressure. So humans walked through the galaxy like bright lights that they could not see themselves, but everyone else could. The Vethric had known this about humans. They had prepared for it. Meeting humans always felt uncomfortable, like standing too close to a loud noise. But they could handle it. They had trained for it. This, however, was different. "Where is it coming from?" the Vethric captain demanded. Keleth pointed at his screen. The human ship, sir. Section 7. Observation deck. What is there? How many humans? I detect only one, sir. The captain stared. One? One human is creating this? Yes, sir. The captain's mind raced. One human should not be able to do this. Even the strongest human presence was manageable. Uncomfortable, but manageable. This was like standing at the base of a waterfall, like being pressed down by a mountain. His crew was struggling. Some of them had already left their posts. Overwhelmed by the sensation. Full reverse, the captain ordered. Get us away from that ship. Now. The flagship's engines powered up, pushing it backward, away from the Times Sejong's promise asterisk. Other Vethric ships saw the flagship retreating. Confused, they began following, thinking it was a planned tactical movement. On the meeting station, Envoy Thalas and Commander Voresh burst into the station's command center. The station commander, another Vethric, looked up in surprise. What is happening? The commander asked. The humans, Thalas clicked frantically. They have brought a weapon. A terrible weapon. A weapon? Our sensors show no weapons powered on their ship. No unusual energy signatures. Not that kind of weapon, Voresh hissed. He was breathing hard, stressed. They have one of the unshielded ones on their ship. The station commander went very still. That is not possible. The unshielded ones are extinct. They have been extinct for hundreds of millions of years. I am telling you what we are sensing, Thalas said. There is a presence on that ship that is crushing our people's minds. Our flagship is retreating. Our crews are panicking. Back in the meeting room, Ambassador Sunmi was trying to understand what was happening. The Vethric had run out. Their ships were moving away. Her communicator buzzed. Ambassador, this is Lieutenant Minho. The Vethric are repositioning their fleet. I do not know why. Should I raise our shields? Before she could answer, the door opened. Envoy Thalas entered, but he moved differently now. He stayed near the door, as far from the humans as possible. His body language showed fear. We must speak honestly. Thalas clicked. His voice shook. We cannot continue this meeting while that one is aboard your ship. That one? Captain Hewan stood up. What are you talking about? The human in your observation deck, Voresh said from the doorway. He would not enter the room. The one who sits alone. You must remove him. You must get him away from us. Ambassador Sunmi exchanged confused looks with Captain Hewan. There is someone in our observation deck? Who? Captain Hewan pulled out her tablet and checked the ship's internal sensors. It shows one person there. The ID says, Daehyun? Our maintenance technician? I do not care what his job is, Thalas said, his voice desperate now. Please. We are begging you. Make him stop. Make him leave. We cannot bear this. Ambassador Sunmi felt a chill run down her spine. The powerful Vethric collective, with their dozens of warships, were begging. They were afraid. Of Daehyun. Of their quiet maintenance worker who fixed pipes and ate noodles alone. What was happening? Captain Hewan stood in the observation deck doorway, staring at Daehyun. He sat in his chair, cup of tea in his hands, looking out at the stars. He looked completely normal. Completely ordinary. Daehyun, she said softly. He turned, surprised to see the captain. He quickly stood up, nearly spilling his tea. Captain! I am sorry. I did not know this area was restricted during the meeting. It is not restricted, Hewan said. She stepped into the room, watching him carefully. She felt nothing unusual. He was just Daehyun, the quiet maintenance worker. Can you come with me, please? We need to talk. Did I do something wrong? Daehyun asked, worried now. No. Just come with me. Daehyun followed her through the corridors. Lieutenant Minho met them halfway, along with Dr. Jiwoo, the ship's xenobiologist. Dr. Jiwoo was a woman in her 40s, with gray streaks in her hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. Is this him? Dr. Jiwoo asked. Yes, Captain Hee-won said. Dae-hyun, this is Dr. Jiwoo. She needs to ask you some questions. Questions about what? Dae-hyun was confused. He had never spoken to Dr. Jiwoo before. He rarely spoke to anyone. They brought him to the medical bay. Dr. Jiwoo ran her scanner over him. The device beeped and showed various readings. Everything looked normal. Human, healthy, nothing unusual. I do not understand, Dr. Jiwoo muttered. There is nothing wrong with him. Ambassador Sunmi entered the medical bay. Behind her, staying in the corridor outside, was a Vethric liaison named Boram. Boram was smaller than the other Vethric, with lighter-colored scales. He had volunteered to work with humans, which meant he was braver than most of his people. But even Boram would not enter the room. He stood in the corridor, his body pressed against the far wall. Can you explain what is happening? Ambassador Sunmi asked him. Boram's voice came through the translator, strained and difficult. That human. The one you call Dae-hyun. He is like a star, collapsing, like standing at the edge of a black hole. But why? Dr. Jiwoo asked. What is he doing? He is not doing anything, Boram said. That is the problem. He is just existing. But his existence is crushing us. Dr. Jiwoo turned to her computer and began typing rapidly. You are talking about mental pressure. The psychic weight that all living beings emit. Yes, Boram said. All species have this. All sapient beings create a pressure on the minds of others. It is natural. But most species learned, long ago, to keep this pressure small, to dampen it. It was necessary for survival. But humans never learned this, Dr. Jiwoo said, understanding dawning on her face. No. Humans are loud. You are all loud. When we meet humans, it is uncomfortable, like standing near a machine that makes noise. But we can handle it. We can prepare ourselves mentally. Your diplomats, your military officers, they are loud, but manageable. And Dae-hyun? Captain Hee-won asked. Boram shuddered. Even from far away, even with Dae-hyun sitting quietly and confused, Boram felt the weight. He is not loud. He is deafening. He is overwhelming. My people on the flagship, they could not think. They could not work. Some of them collapsed. We have never encountered anything like this. Dae-hyun sat on the medical bed, his face pale. I am hurting people? Just by being here? You are not trying to hurt anyone. Dr. Jiwoo said gently. You cannot help it. You do not even know you are doing it. Another person entered the corridor outside. It was Kyungmin, a specialist in human psychology. He had been called from Earth when news of the incident reached them. He was young, energetic, and fascinated by the problem. This is incredible, Kyungmin said, looking at his tablet. I have been reviewing the data. Dae-hyun, do you mind if I ask you some personal questions? I suppose. Dae-hyun said quietly. You live alone, correct? Even on the ship, you keep to yourself? Yes. You do not socialize much? You eat alone, work alone, spend your free time alone? That is just how I prefer things, Dae-hyun said, defensive now. I am not good with people. I like quiet. I am not judging you, Kyungmin said quickly. I am trying to understand. You see, most humans, even though we do not dampen our mental presence, we do spread it out. We interact with others. We share our attention across many people and things. We reach out socially, and Dae-hyun does not do that, Dr. Jiwoo said, catching on. Exactly. He keeps everything inside. Focused. Concentrated. It is like... Kyungmin searched for the right words. Imagine a flashlight. Most humans are like a flashlight shining in all directions, bright but diffused. Daehyun is like a laser beam. All that energy, all that presence, focused into one tight point. In the corridor, Borem made a sound of agreement. Yes, that is what it feels like. Like looking into a sun. We cannot look at him, even from far away. More people arrived. The situation was growing larger by the minute. A Vethric scholar, named Elder Kress, came to the station. He was very old. His scales faded and cracked. He carried ancient data devices with him. Elder Kress refused to board the human ship. Instead, they set up a video connection. His face appeared on the screen, in the medical bay. I have been researching your human, Elder Kress said, his voice scratchy with age. And I have found something in our old records. Something from billions of years ago. Everyone went quiet, listening. There were once many species in the galaxy who were unshielded, Elder Kress continued. Species who never learned to dampen their mental presence. They were predators. Most of them. Powerful, dangerous. Not because they wanted to be, but because their very existence was painful to others. What happened to them? Ambassador Sunmi asked. They were eliminated, Elder Kress said simply. It took millions of years, but eventually, the shielded species worked together to wipe out the unshielded ones. It was seen as necessary, as survival. A heavy silence filled the room. Are you saying, Captain Hewon said slowly, that the galaxy once committed genocide against species like us? Yes, Elder Kress said. The last unshielded species died out over 600 million years ago. We thought they were all gone. We thought it could never happen again. He paused. We were wrong. Humans are unshielded. And this one? This Daehyun. He is the strongest unshielded presence ever recorded. Daehyun stood up from the medical bed. I need some air, he said, his voice shaking. Wait, Dr. Jiwoo said. But he was already leaving. He walked through the corridors, his mind spinning. He was dangerous. His whole species was dangerous. Just by existing, just by being himself, he caused pain to others. He reached his small cabin and sat on his bunk. The room was tiny. A bed, a desk, a small closet. No decorations. No personal items except a few books and his tools. This was his whole life. Quiet. Simply. Alone. Quiet. And apparently, terrifying. There was a soft knock on his door. He opened it, to find Dr. Jiwoo standing there. May I come in? She asked. He nodded and stepped aside. She sat in his desk chair. He sat on his bunk. I know this is overwhelming, she said. I just wanted to fix pipes, Daehyun said quietly. I just wanted to be left alone. I know. Now the whole galaxy is afraid of me. Of all of us. Dr. Jiwoo nodded. Yes, they are afraid. But Daehyun, I need you to understand something. This is not your fault. You did not choose this. You were born this way. That does not make it better, he said. No, she agreed. But it means you have a choice now. We all have a choice. The galaxy wants us to change, to become less than we are, so they can feel comfortable. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. The question is, will we? The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. Humans were unshielded. Humans were like the ancient predator species that had been eliminated billions of years ago. And one human, a maintenance worker named Daehyun, had a presence so powerful that he could disable an entire Vethric fleet just by sitting near a window. Earth's government went into emergency meetings. The Galactic Council called for an immediate session. Alien governments that had been friendly with humans suddenly grew cold and distant. Some called for humanity to be quarantined in their own solar system. Others whispered about more permanent solutions. Admiral Tae-sung arrived at the meeting station 3 days later, commanding a fleet of 20 human warships. He was an older man, with white hair and hard eyes. He had fought in the border conflicts with the Rakesh pirates. He knew how to handle threats, but this was not a threat he could shoot at. He met with Captain Hee-won and Ambassador Sunmi in the conference room. Dae-hyun was there too, sitting quietly in the corner. Admiral Taesung looked at him carefully. The maintenance worker looked tired. He had not been sleeping well. "So you are the one causing all this trouble," Admiral Taesung said. His tone was not unkind, just observational. "I did not mean to, sir," Dae-hyun said. "I know." The Admiral sat down heavily. "None of us meant for any of this. But here we are." Counselor Yerim entered the room next. She was a diplomatic crisis specialist, sent from Earth to help navigate this situation. She was young for such an important position, only 35, but brilliant. She had negotiated the Helios Treaty and the Titan Accords. If anyone could find a way out of this, it was her. "I have been speaking with representatives from 17 different species," Yerim said, opening her tablet. "The situation is worse than we thought. 4 species are calling for humanity to be completely isolated. 2 are suggesting military action. The rest are waiting to see what the Vethric Collective decides." "The Vethric started this," Lieutenant Minho said angrily. "They panicked and ran. They made us look like monsters." "They were not wrong to run," Dr. Jiwoo said quietly. "I have been studying the data. From their perspective, Daehyun is like a weapon of mass destruction. They could not help their reaction any more than we can help creating the presence in the first place." "So what do we do?" Captain Hee-won asked. "The Galactic Council is offering a compromise," Counselor Yerim said. "They want all humans to undergo training, to learn how to shield our mental presence, the way other species do. They are offering to send teachers to Earth. They say if we agree to this, they will accept us into the galactic community." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Taesung asked. "Then we are banned from traveling beyond our solar system. Any human ship that leaves will be destroyed." Silence filled the room. "They cannot do that," Minho said. "We have rights. We have colonies, already established on 3 planets. They can do whatever they want," Admiral Taesung said grimly. "They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. They have technology we do not understand. If the galaxy decides we are too dangerous to exist, we will not be able to stop them." Daehyun spoke up from his corner. "I will do the training. If that is what it takes, I will learn to shield myself." Dr. Jiwoo turned to him. "Daehyun, we need to talk about that. I have been running tests. The training they want to give us, it is not simple." "What do you mean?" Counselor Yerim asked. Dr. Jiwoo pulled up data on the large screen. "I have been working with Elder Kress, the Vethric scholar. He gave me access to their research on mental shielding. It is not just about learning a technique. It changes how you think, how you feel, how you interact with the world." She pointed to brain scans on the screen. "This is a normal Vethric brain. This area here, they use it to constantly monitor and dampen their mental presence. It is always working, every moment of every day. It takes up about 15% of their mental processing power." 15%? Captain Hee-won said. "That is significant." "Yes. Now look at these studies they did, millions of years ago, when they first developed shielding." More images appeared. Species that learned to shield themselves changed. They became more cautious, less creative, less aggressive, less ambitious. "Because they had less mental energy to spare," Counselor Yerim said, understanding. "Exactly. The very things that make humans successful, our creativity, our drive, our refusal to give up, these things are connected to our unshielded nature. If we learn to shield ourselves, we might lose those qualities. We would become docile," Admiral Taesung said. "Perhaps not intentionally," Dr. Jiwoo said. "But yes, we would become less." Daehyun stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth's fleet, the ships floating in formation. "So the choice is, change what we are, or be destroyed. Those are the options they are giving us," Counselor Yerim said. "There is another option," Admiral Taesung said. Everyone looked at him. We fight. Fight the entire galaxy? Ambassador Sunmi said. That is suicide. Maybe. But it might be better than dying slowly. Better than becoming something we are not. There must be another way, Captain Heewon said. For 3 more days, they debated. Scientists ran more tests. Diplomats spoke with alien representatives. The Galactic Council set a deadline. In 1 week, humanity had to decide. Daehyun spent most of that time alone, thinking. Dr. Jiwoo had offered to run tests on him, to see if there was a way to reduce his presence without the full shielding training. He had agreed. The tests were uncomfortable. They tried different techniques. Meditation. Drugs. Neural stimulation. Nothing worked. Daehyun was what he was. On the 6th day, Counselor Yerim came to his cabin. The council has moved up their deadline. They want an answer tomorrow, and they want to hear it from you. From me? Why? Because you are the strongest example of humanity's nature. You are what they fear most. They want to see if you will agree to change. Daehyun looked at her. Yerim sat down. I think you should do what you believe is right. Not what Earth tells you. Not what I tell you. What you believe. I have been thinking about it, Daehyun said slowly. My whole life, people have wanted me to change. Teachers said I was too quiet. They said I needed to make more friends, be more social. Supervisors said I needed to speak up more, participate in team activities, and you did not change. Yerim said, No. I tried sometimes. But it was not me. I am happiest alone, working with my hands, being quiet. That is who I am. He paused. Doctor, Jiwoo told me that my quiet nature is what makes my presence so strong. Because I focus everything inward. I do not spread myself thin. That is correct. So the thing that makes me dangerous, it is also the thing that makes me me. My introversion. My focus. My solitude. He looked at her. My Lanavi. My solitude. My looked at her. If I change that, if I learn to shield myself, I will not be Daehyun anymore. Endar. Tenzin. No, Yerim agreed. You will not. Then I will not do it. Yerim smiled slightly. I was hoping you would say that. The next day, the Galactic Council assembled. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species gathered, some in person, most by hologram. The chamber was enormous, designed to hold this many beings. On the main platform, floating in the center where everyone could see, was a hologram of Daehyun. He sat in a chair, looking calm. Behind him stood Ambassador Sunmi, Captain Heewon, and Counselor Yerim. The council leader, an ancient being from a species called the Elith, spoke. Human Daehyun, you have been called here to answer for your nature. The council has offered humanity a path forward, a way to join the galactic community safely. You need only accept the training. Learn to shield your presence. Become manageable. Daehyun looked at the thousands of faces watching him. He felt their fear, their discomfort. He knew that many of them wanted him dead. Wanted all humans dead. He spoke simply, his voice quiet but clear. No. The word hung in the air. No. Simple. Final. Absolute. The council chamber erupted. Hundreds of beings began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Some delegates stood, gesturing angrily. Others moved away from their screens. As if distance from Daehyun's hologram could protect them. The council leader raised his many-fingered hand. Slowly, the chamber quieted. You refuse? The Elith asked. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. You understand what this means? Your species will be isolated, cut off from the stars. Any human who leaves your solar system will be met with force. I understand, Daehyun said. He sat very still, his hands resting on his knees. But I need to explain something. Known. Speak then. Daehyun took a breath. He was not good at speaking to crowds. He was not good at speaking to anyone. But these words needed to be said. My whole life, I have been quiet. I do not like crowds. I do not like loud noises or lots of activity. I like to work with my hands. I like to solve small problems. I like to be alone. He paused. Many people have told me this is wrong. They said I should change, should be more outgoing, more social, more normal. This is not about your personality. A Vethric delegate interrupted. This is about safety, about survival. It is about both, Daehyun continued. Because the thing that makes me dangerous to you is the same thing that makes me who I am. Dr. Jiwoo explained it. I am strong because I keep everything focused inside. I do not spread myself thin across many people and activities. All my energy, all my presence, it stays concentrated. He looked directly at the council leader. If I learn to shield myself the way you want, I will lose that focus. I will become something else, someone else, and I do not want to change just to make you comfortable. Then you condemn your species, another delegate said, this one from a species called the Torvash. Behind Daehyun's hologram, Ambassador Sunmi stepped forward. Humanity does not want war. We do not want conflict. But we also will not change our fundamental nature because others fear us. You are being unreasonable, the Torvash delegate said. Are we? Counselor Yerim joined the conversation. You are asking us to spend 15% of our mental capacity, every moment of every day, to make ourselves smaller, quieter, less than we are. How is that reasonable? It is what civilized species do, the council leader said. It is what conquered species do, Admiral Taesung said, his voice cutting through the chamber. His hologram appeared next to Daehyun's. You speak of civilization, but what you describe is domestication. You want us tame. You want us weak. We want you safe, the Elith replied. No, Daehyun said again, his quiet voice somehow carrying weight. You want to feel safe. There is a difference. Elder Kress, the Vethric scholar, appeared on the chamber floor. He had been silent until now, watching and listening. The human speaks truth, he said, his old voice crackling. We are afraid. We have been afraid since the moment we discovered humans were unshielded. We remember, in our ancient genetic memory, what the unshielded species were, what they could do. Then you understand why they must be controlled, another delegate said. Controlled, yes, but also destroyed? Elder Kress looked around the chamber. Let us be honest. Half of you want to eliminate humanity entirely. You speak of isolation, but you are planning for war, for extinction. Eddie, 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 Eddie. Silence fell. I am old, Elder Kress continued. I have studied history for longer than most of you have been alive, and I know this. The unshielded species that were eliminated, they were not destroyed because they were evil. They were not cruel or malicious. They were destroyed because we were afraid, because our comfort mattered more than their lives. They were dangerous, the council leader said. So are we, Elder Kress replied. Every species with weapons is dangerous. Every species with ships is dangerous. The Torvash have poison that can kill millions. The Rakesh have planet-breaking bombs. The Elith have technology that can manipulate minds. Are you dangerous? Yes. Do we eliminate you? No. We tolerate the danger because we have decided you are worth the risk. He turned to face Daehyun's hologram. The question before us is simple. Are humans worth the risk? Dr. Jiwoo stepped forward. May I present our research findings? The council leader nodded. Dr. Jiwoo shared data on the screens throughout the chamber. We have run extensive studies over the past week. We have learned something important about human presence. Yes, it is strong. Yes, it can be uncomfortable for species that sense it. But it is not harmful. Not harmful? A delegate shouted. Our crew members collapsed. They collapsed from shock, Dr. Jiwoo said. From surprise. From encountering something they were not prepared for. But there was no permanent damage. No injury. They simply needed time to adjust. She pulled up more data. We ran controlled tests. We had Vethric volunteers spend increasing amounts of time near Daehyun, from a safe distance. At first, they could only last minutes, but after a few days, they could last hours. Their brains adapted. They learned to filter the sensation. You are saying we can get used to it? A Vethric delegate asked. Yes. Just like humans who live near waterfalls eventually stop hearing the noise. Just like anyone who lives in a bright place stops noticing the light. Your minds can adapt, if you give them time. Counselor Yerim added, We are proposing a compromise. Not the one you suggested. A different one. The council leader leaned forward. Explain. Create zones, Yerim said. Areas where species sensitive to human presence can be guaranteed free from humans. We will respect those zones absolutely, but also create shared areas where species can interact if they choose. Where those who want to work with humans, trade with humans, learn from humans, can do so. And those who cannot tolerate you simply avoid those areas? A delegate asked. Yes. It is not perfect. It is not convenient. But it allows us to coexist without anyone having to change their fundamental nature. End quote. Debate erupted again. Some delegates supported the idea. Others rejected it. Hours passed. Daehyun sat quietly through all of it, occasionally answering questions, but mostly just being there. Being himself. A young delegate from a species called the Mishran stood up. I want to share something. My people, we are artists. Creators. We have studied human art, human music, human stories, and we have noticed something. She paused, making sure everyone was listening. Human creativity is different from ours. It is wilder, more intense, more varied. We believe this is because of your unshielded nature, because you do not spend energy dampening yourselves. You have more energy for creation. She looked at Daehyun. If you shield yourselves, you will lose that. And the galaxy will lose it too. All the art you might have made, all the innovations, all the stories, they will be smaller, quieter. Another delegate stood. This one from a scientific species. My people have been analyzing human problem solving. You approach challenges differently than we do. You are more willing to take risks, to try impossible things. This also comes from your nature. One by one, delegates began to speak. Not all of them. Many still wanted humans gone, wanted them controlled. But enough spoke in support that the momentum shifted. The council leader listened to all of it. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. This council will vote, he said. 3 options. 1. Humanity is isolated and contained. 2. Humanity undergoes shielding training. 3. We implement the zone system proposed by the humans. The vote took an hour. The results came in slowly. When they were tallied, the Elith announced them. Option 1, 32%. Option 2, 28%. Option 3, 40%. The zone system had won. Daehyun felt something release in his chest. Relief. Exhaustion. Hope. However, the council leader continued, this comes with conditions. Humans must prove they can respect the boundaries. Any violation of the protected zones will result in immediate isolation. Additionally, humans like you, Daehyun, the The strongest presences must register their locations when traveling, so others can avoid them if needed. We agree, Ambassador Sunmi said. Then it is decided. The council leader looked at Daehyun one last time. You are a strange species. Humans. You refuse to become civilized in the way we understand civilization. You cling to your primitive nature. Yes, Daehyun said simply. I do not know if that is brave or foolish. Maybe both, Daehyun said. The council session ended. The holograms disappeared. Daehyun sat in his chair aboard the Times Sejong's Promise *, alone in the room. The others had left to begin the work of implementing the agreement. There was so much to do. Treaties to write, zones to define, systems to establish. But Daehyun was not needed for that work. He was just a maintenance worker. He stood up slowly, feeling more tired than he had ever felt in his life. He walked through the quiet corridors back to his cabin. Inside, he sat on his bunk and looked at his small, simple room. Nothing had changed. He was still Daehyun, still quiet, still alone, still someone who fixed pipes and preferred solitude. But the galaxy had changed. It had bent, just slightly, to accommodate him, to accommodate all humans. They did not have to change. They did not have to become smaller. They could be themselves. 3 months later, Daehyun returned to his normal work. The Times Sejong's Promise Times traveled to various stations, supporting diplomatic missions. Daehyun fixed things, checked systems, ate his meals alone. But now, when he went to the observation deck, there was a small sign on the door. It said, in multiple languages, High presence, human inside. Sensitive species use caution. Daehyun had laughed when he first saw it. Then, he had gone inside and sat in his usual chair with his noodles and tea. Through the window, he could see the stars. And now, scattered among those stars, were zones marked for humans and zones marked for others. The galaxy had found a way to coexist. It was not perfect. It was not easy. But it was possible. Daehyun took a sip of his tea and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were living their lives, probably complaining about humans, probably wishing things were different, but they were adapting, learning, growing, just like he had. He had not changed who he was. He had just found a galaxy willing to make room for him. That was enough. He finished his noodles in peace, surrounded by stars and silence, exactly the way he liked it.